reminds us how misleading public narratives can be. Smiling photos don't show hard conversations. Award speeches don't capture private doubts. Social media offers highlights, not context. That doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It means it was human. By turning relationships into fairy tales, audiences unintentionally erase the normal struggles that make long-term love difficult and meaningful. The truth is often quieter and less sensational. It lives in patterns, not headlines. And it's usually understood only by the people inside the relationship. Accountability and reflection. One of the reasons Keith Urban has earned respect over the years is his willingness to speak honestly about his own flaws. He has never presented himself as flawless, and he has openly acknowledged moments of personal failure in life and recovery. Accountability, however, is not the same as self-blame. It's about recognizing where growth is needed. In long marriages, reflection often comes not when things fall apart, but when people realize how much they've changed. Keith's openness about emotional responsibility resonates because it mirrors something many couples experience privately: the realization that love alone doesn't solve everything. Awareness comes late sometimes, and when it does, it can feel painful, humbling, and deeply human. That willingness to look inward matters, regardless of where a relationship ultimately lands. Nicole Kidman's quiet strength. Nicole Kidman has built a reputation for resilience long before her marriage to Keith Urban. Throughout her career, she has navigated public scrutiny with restraint and intention, choosing privacy over spectacle. When faced with personal challenges, she rarely explains herself. Instead, she focuses on her work, her children, and her sense of self. That approach reflects emotional maturity rather than avoidance. In long relationships, especially those lived publicly, silence can be a form of protection. Nicole's strength has always been her ability to move forward without rewriting history or assigning public blame. She honors what was while continuing to evolve. That balance, acknowledging love without being defined by it, is difficult. It's also a reminder that dignity doesn't require loud statements. Sometimes it's expressed through steady presence and purposeful silence. Parenting beyond the spotlight. One constant in Keith and Nicole's story has been their commitment to their children. No matter what challenges adults face, parenting remains a shared responsibility, rooted in care and stability. Both have emphasized protecting their daughters from unnecessary attention and preserving a sense of normalcy. That priority often shapes decisions behind the scenes far more than the public realizes. For many couples, especially high-profile ones, the deepest work happens not in public reconciliation or separation, but in co-parenting with respect. Choosing what stays private is part of that work. Love doesn't vanish when circumstances change, it transforms. And when children are involved, that transformation demands patience, humility, and cooperation. Whatever form a relationship takes over time, the role of parent remains, grounded in consistency rather than image. What this story really teaches us. The story of Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman isn't about scandal or failure. It's about the reality of long-term partnership under extraordinary pressure. It reminds us that admiration doesn't equal understanding, and that even deeply loving relationships require ongoing care. Fame amplifies everything: distance, exhaustion, emotional dependence, and expectations. But these challenges aren't unique to celebrities. They're simply more visible. The lesson here isn't that love fails, It's that love evolves, sometimes painfully. Growth doesn't always follow the path people expect, and endings, when they happen, don't erase what was real. They reflect change. This story invites empathy rather than judgment, reminding us that behind every public image are two individuals navigating life as imperfectly as anyone else. A final reflection. In the end, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman's relationship stands as a powerful example of how love, commitment, and personal growth intersect in complicated ways. Their journey shows that devotion can exist alongside struggle, and that admiration doesn't protect anyone from the realities of time and change. What matters most is not how a story looks from the outside, but how the people inside it choose honesty, care, and responsibility. Whether together or apart, the years they shared shaped who they are, and that impact doesn't disappear. If anything, it deepens understanding. Their story isn't a cautionary tale, it's a human one. And perhaps that's why it resonates so strongly, because it reflects truths many people recognize in their own lives, just without the spotlight. For nearly 2 decades, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman have represented one of the most admired love stories in modern celebrity culture. A country music star with a vulnerable edge and an Oscar-winning actress known for grace and discipline, their union felt like a perfect meeting of worlds. Fans saw devotion on red carpets, affection in interviews, and genuine admiration in how they spoke about one another. Unlike many Hollywood relationships, theirs seemed rooted in friendship, recovery, and mutual respect. Keith often credited Nicole with saving his life during his struggles with addiction, while Nicole described their marriage as a place of safety after years of upheaval. Together, they embodied the idea that love could survive fame. But as with any long marriage lived partly in the public eye, what people saw was only one layer of a far more complex reality. How it all began: timing, healing, and connection. When Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman first met in the mid-2000s, timing played a powerful role. Nicole was emerging from a very public divorce and rebuilding her sense of self, while Keith was navigating sobriety and redefining his career. Their early connection wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was quiet, conversational, and deeply personal. Both have spoken about long talks, shared values, and a mutual understanding of what it means to survive difficult chapters. Their 2006 wedding in Sydney felt intimate rather than extravagant, reinforcing the image of a couple focused more on commitment than spectacle. From the beginning, their relationship carried a sense of intention. They weren't chasing headlines, they were choosing stability. That foundation became central to how fans understood their marriage as something earned through growth, not just romance. The image of a perfect marriage. Over the years, Keith and Nicole became symbols of a rare kind of celebrity marriage: supportive, affectionate, and seemingly drama-free. Public appearances were warm rather than performative, and interviews often emphasized gratitude instead of perfection. Keith wrote songs inspired by Nicole, while Nicole consistently spoke about protecting their family life. To audiences, their relationship looked refreshingly normal, despite extraordinary fame. But the idea of a perfect marriage can be both comforting and misleading. When couples are placed on a pedestal, the ordinary challenges of long-term partnership, miscommunication, exhaustion, emotional distance often go unseen. The image becomes stronger than the reality. Keith and Nicole never claimed perfection, but the public narrative around them slowly turned their real, evolving marriage into a symbol. and symbols leave little room for vulnerability when things feel less balanced behind the scenes. Life on two different roads. One of the quiet pressures in Keith and Nicole's marriage has always been logistics. Nicole's acting career frequently requires extended periods abroad, while Keith's music career demands months of touring. These are not short business trips. They are immersive commitments that pull people into entirely different rhythms of life. Maintaining intimacy across time zones, hotel rooms, and film sets requires extraordinary effort. Both have spoken openly about how hard that balance can be, even with privilege and support. Shared family moments often had to be carefully planned, and togetherness sometimes came in brief windows between obligations. Over time, constant adjustment can take an emotional toll, not because love disappears, but because presence becomes fragmented. For many long-term couples, especially those in demanding careers, the challenge isn't conflict. It's the slow erosion of everyday connection, love, support, and emotional weight. Keith has never hidden how deeply Nicole supported him during his recovery and personal struggles. He has described her as a steady presence who helped anchor his life during moments when he felt unmoored. That kind of support can be life-saving, but it can also create emotional imbalance if not continually recalibrated. Long marriages require roles to evolve. What begins as rescue must eventually become partnership. Over time, carrying emotional weight, especially for someone navigating addiction, fame, and self-expectation, can quietly strain even the strongest bond. Nicole, for her part, has spoken about the importance of mutual care and boundaries. Love, after all, is not just about giving, it's about sustaining two whole people. When emotional responsibility leans too heavily in one direction for too long, it can leave both partners feeling exhausted in different ways. Why public stories often miss the truth. When people look at famous marriages, they often search for a single dramatic reason when things change. One mistake, one betrayal, one moment. Real relationships rarely work that way. They shift through accumulation, missed conversations, unresolved feelings, emotional fatigue. Keith and Nicole's story,